going barefoot. Maybe it's something I should try in my life. If you do it, make sure you let me know in the comments down below.
If people are asked to typify aspects of Australian culture, barefoot would be in there.
Called one of the weirdest, perplexing, odd, unexplainable Australian cultural habits.
There's a strain that runs through Australian culture. You can go barefoot and say, in so doing, I am living out Australian culture.
No idea who this guy is, but honestly, he's making a gross and he's certainly misrepresenting Australian culture. In many public places in Australia, if you choose to go barefoot, then you are probably actually breaking social mores. So how many people have I seen in public in bare feet this week? 0.
Now, this might seem like an ordinary habit to everyday Australians, but actually it's not so normal to other people around the world. There isn't a shoe shortage in Australia, and it doesn't take much effort to put on a pair of shoes. So do Australians really love their land so much they don't need any layers between it and their feet? The truth is, for most of human existence, everyone was barefoot. Humans started wearing shoes about 40,000 years ago, so why did Australians begin to take them off?
Australia marketed itself to the migrants it needed. There was a need for workers and inhabitants. So how do you attract someone from a cold, damp tenement building in Glasgow or in Manchester or in London? Well, you show them images of life down under, and that involves the privilege, if you like, of going barefoot. You can leave your miserable life behind, come and make a new life in a new world.
See, I reckon this has got to be slightly misleading, surely.
It really is misleading. Now, let's have a look at the person who's talking in this video. This guy is some kind of academic. He probably rarely, if ever, goes to the beach. He probably only ever removes his shoes if he's gonna hop in the shower or go to bed. He's probably someone who doesn't even go barefoot in his own house and who has no concept of Australian culture outside of his own teeny weeny little circle. This notion that he's putting forward that Australia is a country where people go barefoot because that's what the rest of the world was told, and he's trying to imply that, well, migrants came here and now they go barefoot. That's ridiculous.
Because, look, everyone has times where they can go to the beach and enjoy the sun. Obviously, us less so with less sun. But you guys still work. You still have jobs. You still have lives to lead. But I do find, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but when you see these sort of images from Australia, it's like this is all you guys do, and you don't actually work and don't have stressful lives.
For me, the best reaction videos are the ones like this, where the host is actually intelligent enough to form his own rational conclusions. Yeah, Rob, you are spot on. People do lots of things outside of this whole impression of Australia being a country where we all spend all day living on the beach. We do have to live our lives just like everyone in every other country in the world. That involves going to work, taking our kids to school, going shopping, doing all the regular things that regular people do. We don't live at the beach. On top of that, in many areas of Australia, you can only really go and enjoy the beach in summertime because it is too cold to go to the beach in the other months. Sure, in areas of Queensland, Northern Territory, Western Australia, there will be people at beaches all year round. But a lot of those people that you see at beaches in winter in like Queensland, for example, aren't people from Queensland. These are people from southern states who are up there to escape winter. It's not something that most people can do all year round. We don't, as I said, live on the beach.
That's what it does come across as, when I don't think that's true. You know, you still got to earn a living. You're not all just spending your days on the beach, are you? So I do find some of these slightly misleading, but maybe they had to be misleading to get workers from the UK to come down under.
The whole year round you may surf and swim and sunbathe. Cool Pacific breezes temper our summers, while bright sunny days mark our incomparable winters.
Then the culture developed of removing your shoes as a sign that you've left the Northern Hemisphere behind. This is a new country, sun-loving, fun-loving place. You can cast off your footwear and embrace the land.
Said like a true academic. Like I said, I doubt this dude ever takes his shoes off outside of his home. And chances are he probably doesn't go barefoot in his own home either. Now, I will point out that the barefoot culture is probably very different in Queensland, for example, to what it would be down in Melbourne, simply because of the climate. And this guy is trying to give the impression that if you've gone to Australia from somewhere cold like the UK, that you're going to throw away your shoes and you're going to live like an Australian and go barefoot, which is utter hogwash. For the most part, most people in Australia are only going to go barefoot at the beach, maybe in their homes, or maybe if they're at a park. And to get to those places, you're going to wear your shoes to get there.
There isn't a lot of everyday activities you can't do barefoot. You can go into stores and...
Surely not. Surely you don't just randomly go into shops with no shoes on. Or, you know, no thongs, flip-flops. Surely you wear something in shops. And everyday life. That just seems absolute bonkers. I don't think... Unless I'm on holiday, right? Unless I'm on holiday and it's really hot and you're in that sort of holiday mode where you're just popping in to get an iced lolly or something. I would have never have thought of going into a shop without shoes on. Or you've been at the beach or something and your feet are sandy or whatever and you've just washed them off. Anyway.
And for the most part, in terms of going barefoot after you've been to the beach because you've got sandy feet or wet feet, that's mostly not going to happen. Because you'll find that the majority of people, if they go to the beach, are going to wear thongs or what you call flip-flops. And then, you know, you take them off at the beach. You carry them while you're at the beach. And then you put them back on when you leave the beach. So the majority of people aren't going to then turn around and walk into a store with bare feet. Now, I know Queensland's a little different. Queenslanders have always been a little different. So if you're in Queensland, perhaps you might be able to tell us whether it is different up there. But as someone who lives in the southern part of Australia, rarely are you going to see people walking into a shop barefoot. And mostly, if they do, it tends to be frowned upon. So, admittedly, this is the cooler end of Australia. But even still, if it's hot, you wear thongs, you don't go barefoot. Sure, you're not going to be denied entry to stores if you rock up with bare feet. And no one is going to comment on you walking through a store with bare feet. But you're going to get the side eye from people. And honestly, it would be a major stretch for me to actually try and remember the last time I ever saw anyone going barefoot in public other than at a beach.
This seems absolutely mental. Like, to someone that's, as they say, from the Northern Hemisphere.
Supermarkets. You can buy your fruit and vegetables. You can even go into liquor stores. In fact, you can go just about anywhere in public, unless there's a dress code. And the Australian dress code is very casual.
Well, we are a rather relaxed country, and I think that's just due to the wonderful climate that we have.
Sorry, she's from the Australian School of Etiquette and she's wearing a blazer. That contradicts what she has just said, doesn't it? It massively contradicts exactly what she's just said.
Okay, for starters, let's just point out that something called the Australian School of Etiquette is clearly a self-appointed business. There is no government body that is a school of etiquette, or whatever they're calling it. And also, gonna sound rude here, but honestly, that woman looks like she's never gone barefoot in her entire life. She looks like she's never dressed casual in her entire life. And I really don't think she's got any notion about what your average Joe out on the street actually does outside of her fancy little office.
However, I think some of our relaxed ideals have become a little sloppy. Even just walking around the streets or into shopping centres, I just think wearing shoes is appropriate. Some of the places where I have seen terrible barefootedness is, obviously on aircrafts, in a cinema, library, cafes, restaurants.
I would certainly say there are places you wear shoes because some people probably have disgusting, sweaty, smelly feet. Cinemas, please wear shoes in a cinema. Aeroplanes, there is no reason why anyone should not be wearing shoes on an aeroplane in a confined box. That is wrong because you can't escape it, can you? So there are definitely places where you should be wearing shoes.
First of all, I agree that if you're in a dining place, in a restaurant or a takeaway or even in a cinema, then it's probably not acceptable to be barefoot. Although, at the same time, if you are somewhere like a cinema or an airplane, it's not unheard of for people to slip their shoes off and make themselves comfortable while they're there. But let's talk about the misconception that he has. See, the thing is, if you are someone who's likely to slip your shoes off in a airplane or wherever, somewhere indoors like that, then you're not going to be wearing shoes that make your feet sweat. It's just not done. If you're going to remove your shoes, you're going to do so because you are wearing something like sandals or thongs that are easy to slip off, where your feet aren't going to be smelly because they're not going to be sweating in big, thick, heavy shoes or thick, heavy socks. If you are wearing shoes and socks, then it is a definite no-no to remove them in public because you don't want to gas people out.
But Australian feet have also taken the world stage. Our cricketers participate in earthing. We've pioneered barefoot bowls,
I've heard of
barefoot water ski jumping, and we even have a world-famous children's entertainer from the Wiggles. And if that's not enough, the founder of the barefoot movement is also Australian.
Some of the benefits of being barefoot are increased power output, better alignment, better muscle activation. We have over 200,000 nerve endings in our feet, and being out of shoes lets those nerve endings give our brain feedback. Getting back to a natural state and using our body how it was meant to be used is really beneficial, and it's really starting to get some traction. There's a lot more research now going into barefootedness. It's growing here in Australia, it's growing all around the world.
In your dreams, mate, it's always going to be something kind of limited. I know that there are now shoes that you can buy that imitate the feeling of being barefoot in terms of how they support your foot. But it's not something that's going to take off and become a major thing worldwide.
Okay, so is it true there are barefooters everywhere in Australia?
Australia is a highly urban society, one of the most urban societies in the world. And one myth is the idea that everyone in Australia will kick off their shoes at the first opportunity. Most people choose to live in large cities. So there's a fantasy first about the bush. The bush is celebrated, even though most people don't want to live there. And there's also the idea of the beach. The beach is the kind of paradise.
So let's break this down. Despite being a bush and beach-loving culture, 90% of Australians live in urban cities. While not entirely uncommon to see barefooters in these cities, most barefooting happens around beaches, parks, or indoors.
That makes more sense, doesn't it? That definitely makes more sense because, look, if you're at the beach, I would go barefoot at the beach on the sand. Indoors, I would go bare feet. In my own home anyway, not necessarily in someone else's home. I'd wear socks in someone else's home.
So at the end of the day, we're really not that dissimilar to the rest of the world. Although I will admit, it is perfectly acceptable if you are somewhere, not just at home, that if you are wearing shoes that can be slipped off without you ending up with stinky feet, then it is perfectly acceptable to slip them off. I've been at work where, for example, in a staff meeting at the end of the day and you're tired, so you slip your shoes off. Or if you're walking around a room at work and you're just amongst work colleagues, then you might slip your shoes off and go barefoot. And when you go to people's places, sure, you might well take your shoes off and go barefoot in people's houses, depending on what they do in their own homes. Likewise, if you're at the library and you're going to be there for a while, you might slip your shoes off. And if you're venturing a short distance from where you're working, you might not bother to put your shoes back on because you might be just making a quick zip to grab a book and then straight back. So in that regards, perhaps we are a little bit more relaxed when it comes to wearing shoes.
So those two places and around the sort of beach area, I don't think that's uncommon. So maybe this is more of a myth than anything, more of a over-exaggeration.
I think he's spot on with describing it as being an over-exaggeration. Maybe we are a little bit more relaxed when it comes to flipping off our shoes in Australia, but it's not this notion that seems to be being put out there that we all walk around in bare feet everywhere we go.
In Australia, there is a trade between work and leisure. You work hard, and then you're free. Going barefoot is more associated with being closer to nature. Very different from the original colonial culture of Britain. People are freer, much less protocol. And the symbol of that is to decide not to wear shoes because you're having fun, you're at leisure. And Australia is a leisure culture.
So whether you love or loathe going barefoot, when you're in Australia, you can kick off your shoes and your feet can enjoy a little freedom.
I don't even not wear shoes at home. You know, I just don't not have. Do you not wear shoes?
Yep, I'm barefoot right now.
If you wear shoes inside your own home, then you're weird. That's wrong. You shouldn't wear shoes indoors, I don't think. Don't wear shoes indoors, please. There we go. Now, I'm wondering, okay, is this actually... Sorry about the cat. Pixie's wanting some attention. Is this more of a over-exaggeration? Is it true that Australians love to walk everywhere barefoot in shopping centres, in cafes, everywhere? Is it true? Are you one of these people that goes around with no feet? With no feet? It's a bit hard on the disabled. God. Are you one of these people that goes barefoot? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the video. Yeah. Is this something that needs debunking?
definitely something that needs debunking. And let me just say, the video would have been far more convincing had they actually been out there interviewing regular Australian public, as opposed to these two individuals who were clearly academics who probably never get outside of their offices and who appear to never remove their shoes. And as for that last image of someone walking along what appears to be a bush track barefoot, oh my gosh, never ever do that. No one in Australia would do that. We have snakes. We have ants that give nasty bites. We have spiders that are venomous. So chances are, if you are going barefoot outside in nature, other than at some perfectly manicured park or at the beach, you're a moron and you're going to probably end up in hospital. Thanks for watching. Please do all the good stuff like, subscribe, leave a comment and share. It's free and it helps me out.